Imagine a church without prayers. Imagine a government without citizens. Imagine democracy without journalists. Imagine a world without the media. Life is full of issues and stories about people, communities, and governments. Stories that have to be told by well-trained journalists. That's why you can't imagine news without Joy News.
Hello and welcome to The Pulse. We're live on DSTV channel 42 and GoTV, channel 125, and on all our social media handles. We are Joy News on TV. Coming up, Ghana has launched diplomatic processes to clarify the circumstances around the arrest and detention of Asante Akyem Central MP Kwame Ohene-Frimpong in the Netherlands. We speak to the leadership of Parliament for more on this developing story. West African Examinations Council tightens security and anti-cheating measures for the 2026 WASSCE after malpractice cases recorded during the recent BECE as more than 500,000 candidates begin the examination process across the country. From BOG losses to the MPP's policy rebuild, Kojo Nkrumah will join me later on The Pulse for a conversation on Ghana's economic debate, the conflicting figures, and the MPP's road to recovery. We've got the latest of these and many other stories coming up in the next 3 hours. The Pulse is brought to you by Defendril Cough Expectorant. Defendril, breathe easy, feel better. My name is Kenneth Gyasi. Details after this.
Hi, now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park.
Welcome to Safari Valley Eco Park.
Our electric shuttle pulled up and in no time our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the eco park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown cranes, mara, silky chicken, nyalas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults, this price for teenagers. This for kids. It's a bargain. As the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It has been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
Across Ghana, in communities big and small, ordinary people are doing extraordinary things. This is the Joy News Impact Makers Awards 2026, celebrating those who are changing lives, shaping futures, and building hope. From Bimbila in the northern region, Faith Jakpasu is transforming classrooms through innovation, inclusive learning, and life-changing initiatives for students, teachers, and vulnerable communities. From Aflao in the Volta region, Felix Akakpo is building schools schools, supporting students, and investing in the future of an entire community. In health, from Winneba in the Central Region, Amos Ando is turning his personal battle with sickle cell into a national movement for awareness, prevention, and policy change. From Nkwanta in the Oti region, Bless Lantam is delivering life-changing healthcare to hard-to-reach communities, even in the face of conflict. From Insawam Edwardri in the Eastern region, Antonio Say is restoring mobility, dignity, and opportunity through prosthetics and outreach across Ghana. From Adenta in the Greater Accra region, Valerie Ajatia is empowering amputees with hope, rehabilitation, and the courage to rebuild their lives. From Anyanui and Loga in the Volta region, Reverend Christian Valeto is rescuing, treating, and reintegrating neglected mental health patients back into society. From Akuse in the Eastern region, Alberta Aite is mentoring, educating, and empowering over 1,000 girls to dream beyond limitations. From Breku in the Central region, Isabella Akwabwa fighting period poverty and equipping women and girls with skills for independence. In Wash, from Sirigu in the Upper East region, Dr. Anthony Akunzule is improving livelihoods through clean water, education, and economic opportunities for women. From Akache in the Volta region, Senior Bomita is transforming communities through schools, clean water, healthcare access, and youth empowerment. And for the Corporate Partner Award from the Cape Coast Youth Development Association is empowering thousands of young people through education, skills training, and community development. These are not just finalists. These are change makers. They are nation builders. They are Ghana's true heroes. Joy News Impact Makers Awards, celebrating ordinary people making extraordinary impacts. Who takes this home?
The 2026 Joy News Impact Makers Awards is brought to you by Ghana CEO Summit, a decade of leadership impact. Labadi Beach Hotel, Ayuda, Ghana's #1 services app. Abakun, Services Bebre, New Crystal Hospital, growing in good health. Sulas Enterprise, where quality meets affordability. Water Aid Ghana, change starts with water. Ghana Chamber of Mines.
Distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Good afternoon. The West African Examinations Council says it has tightened security and supervision as the 2026 WASSCE enters its main phase today, with candidates sitting the oral English paper nationwide. With experiences from the recent BEC, more monitors and security personnel are being deployed nationwide to protect the integrity of the examination. Head of Public Affairs at WAEC, John Kapi, says special arrangements have also been made for candidates with special needs. But first, let's take you around the country and speak to our correspondents who are live at the schools for the start of the WASSCE. Let's begin from the northern region, where Martina Bugri is standing by with the latest. Martina, what can you report from the northern region?
So for the northern region, they were done around 11:30 thereabout. I was at the Tamale Senior High School when they had just finished their oral examination. The northern region is presenting about 25,000 pupils, 25 students who are writing, made up of over 11,000 male, over 11,000 female, and 14,000 male, writing in 30 centers. That's public schools, And then when you come to invigilators, they have over 1,000 invigilators who are going to invigilate this examination. They also have supervisors and assistant supervisors. Now, at the Tamale Senior High School, some of the students I spoke to said they had a bit of a challenge midway through the examination because the systems they were using were not too audible. And so they had to just guess, hoping that whatever they have guessed and written would be right. But largely they said it was okay, even though they had challenges, they believed that it would go well with them, they would pass.
Usually on first days like this, you usually record less challenges, but with cheating on the rise, especially picking lessons from the BEC, was there any incident of recorded cheating in any of the schools you're aware of?
None at all. I went to 3 schools. None of them had reported any malpractice. When I spoke to the students, they said their invigilators were very calm. They were not shouting on them. They just stood and watched, and they also concentrated because they had been spoken to pay attention to what they were doing, ensure that they don't copy, and then they can have credible results. They believe that if that is done, they won't have issues. And they feared that when caught, your papers would actually be cancelled, even heightens it more for them. And so they believe that they themselves comporting themselves is key in these exams. And so they are comporting themselves.
Martina Bugri reports to us from the northern region. Thank you very much. To the western region now, where our resident correspondent in Athalia, Kwansa, is also joining us from. In Athalia, is the situation different in the western region? Unfortunately, we do not have in Athalia at this time, but let's head to the Ashanti region where Clinton Yeboah has been visiting some schools. Clinton, where have you been and what can you tell us?
I've been to KNUST SHS and I've been to St. Louis SHS and also TI Media. And the situation, I can say, generally has been very calm. No incident of malpractice has been recorded in the 3 schools. However, the different twist when we got to KNUST school was that out of the 1,022 students who were registered for the examination, 3 of them are unable to sit. One of them is pregnant. She was able to write the exams. One of them also, after the registration for the WASI, dropped out of school. And the other one, as we speak currently, is deceased. Also, after registration, authorities explained that he was hit with some illness, and after some time they couldn't hear of him, so they contacted parents, who then confirmed that the boy has passed away. And so, out of the students who were registered for the examination this year, 3 are not writing at KNUST school.
We were told by WAEC that this year's exam will be disability friendly. They're going to put in place measures to ensure that persons with disability are handed equal opportunity as their colleagues who are very well abled. Did you see anything like that at the exam centers you visited?
Well, not specifically for the examination, but for the school structures, there were some disability-friendly structures there, but for the examination specifically, everybody is supposed to sit at the exams hall on the same desks to write. So I didn't see any different provisions for persons with disability. And I must confirm, I also didn't see any person with disability in all the schools that I visited.
Ashanti region has one of the highest numbers of students sitting for this year's WASI. Usually, when the numbers are that huge, you usually record issues about delays in distribution of papers and a late start to the exams and so on. Did anything like that occur?
Indeed, we did. We haven't had reports of delays in materials, but what we do have confirmed from all the schools I've visited was that because of the high numbers of the candidates registered from schools, they have been segregated into first and second batches. And so a batch started around 8 a.m. in the early morning, and the next batch also started around 10 a.m. And so the high numbers are being contained by, the segregation. But for YS-specific directives and strategies, we didn't see any.
Clinton Yabua, thank you very much. That's our correspondent from the Ashanti region. Back here in the Greater Accra region, a visit to some schools showed general satisfaction among students after the writing of the English oral examination.
They've already started their final exams. This year the exams came earlier than last year, so we had a bit of a challenge with the timing, but we did our best to prepare them. So for us as a school, we are well prepared for the exams. We did our best, so we are sure the students will make us proud. Because of the timing, this year WASI came a bit too early, so that was a concern for us. But we had to put in some measures so that at least we could bridge, that gap, so that we didn't have any challenge. So we had so many interventions for the students, and we are sure that with all the interventions that we had to put in place, we really got them prepared. So I'll say they are prepared.
What I found was that it was very much easy. I believe I'm going to make an A out of it. Yes. And I witnessed that all the questions and answers have solved most of them before. Most of them I didn't miss the day. Yes, and I was very much familiar with it too. And I also wrote Jean Feb, which is recently like Novdekin. I also found out that the orals was the same. So I believe this one, I'm going to blow it.
That's great.
With God on my side, if I should say it that way. Yes, right. I'm going to blow it.
Okay, so the paper was okay. Everything was smooth, but I was the last person in my set, so I found this a bit difficult hearing. Yeah, but it was okay.
Yes, because I heard it was going a bit faster, and that was all.
So what does the numbers say relating to the examinations? We can now listen to the head of Public Affairs at the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, John Kapi, outline the measures set up for the writing of this year's exam.
For those who are visually impaired, we have the braille that is prepared for them. And then those who have low vision, we have what we call the large print that we make provision for. So all those who have these challenges are going to be catered for. There are also those who may have cerebral palsy. These are people who would have AIDS, if you want, and then they will put them through the process. There is always extra time for these specific candidates just because they may not be able to perform or function like their counterparts who don't have any of those challenges. Yeah, so we've always worked with the Ghana Police Service. They guard our examination depot. We also have them as escorts, and then they maintain general security around the examination area. We also have the BNI. They move at their own pace, at their own time. We don't control their movement, but they also go out there and monitor. We have national security who also go out. They also do not work with our timetable. They have their own timetable that they use, but then they report to us if they observe any negative trends anywhere at any examination center. Beyond that, we have our own locally trained monitors that we are sending out. They are not full-time staff of the council, but they also have some kind of special training, and they'll be able to detect anything that is wrong at any of the examination centers.
We've also been hearing from the Ghana Education Service, which has issued a stern warning to heads of senior high schools, particularly institutions repeatedly cited for exam malpractice, to desist from the practice or face sanctions. Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Ernest Kofi Davis, speaking at the news conference yesterday, made that known.
I urge all supervisors and invigilators to maintain higher standard of professionalism. Those who are caught aiding cheating will be severely punished. I wish to remind heads of schools that are consistently cited for examination malpractice to change the narration this year or risk being changed. Because if you cannot change the situation, then we will change you. The situation will change you. So if you were cited 3 years ago, you were cited 2 years ago, your school was cited last year, then you have no chance this year if you are cited again. Then it's clear that you cannot change the situation. So who will change you? Or the situation must change you for us to get others to come and help us improve the situation. I wish to remind all supervisors and regional directors of education that all teachers and supervisors who were linked to examination malpractice last year and are being processed for sanction are banned from the examination centers. They are not supposed to come near the examination centers. They are also expected not to have anything to do with the entire examination process, including marking. They are not expected to have anything to do with the entire examination process, including marking. I wish to use this platform to thank all stakeholders for the massive support we received through our hotlines during the BEC. We call on you once again to support our effort to fight examination malpractice and conduct successful WASI this year. Please report examination malpractice to GES immediately. You get information that it is happening.
And for years, Mangwas in the Jabin district has lived without electricity despite repeated promises. Now residents, mostly farmers, are raising money from their menial jobs to connect the community to the national grid, hoping to give their children a better future. Here are excerpts of Joy News feature, A Dark Village by Emmanuel Bright-Kweku.
Night falls in Amangwase and life grinds to a halt. No electricity, no light. Years of broken promises have kept the community in darkness, with residents still waiting for a connection to the national grid.
Do you have any question? Okay, so we are taking another example.
It's a few days to the basic education certificate examination, and for final year JHS candidates in the village, preparing for their future means battling something more than just exams.
It's very difficult for me to learn because we are using the same flashlight in the house. My mom will be using that one to cook, and I have to also come to classes, so I need to eat before. So I won't get flashlight to come to class, so I need to stop the class and wait in the house.
Can anyone tell us what to do?
Inside this dimly lit classroom, students take their final mathematics revision lessons.
Clap hands for her. Very good.
Each night, they gather as their teacher leads them through revision across subjects. But unlike their friends in other towns and cities, learning at night for the external exams in this part of the world without electricity is a daunting task.
I want to become a midwife in the future, but in this condition, no light, and I know I can't learn ICT, but I'm trying my best to learn and achieve my dreams in the future.
Better be a doctor by and I'm a Kenyan who's 17. I'm at BBI slow into Unya at Agency Adia anyway, and at the agency oh, a bit with work from the Ufra from about Nadia until Unya light and function. Torchlight also, Mamma used to die.
Today, they are fortunate to have one parent give out her solar lamp to aid their learning. The lamp flickers from the ceiling, barely lighting the classroom.
Sometimes they even come with torchlights and other things for studies, and it's not helping issues. We can't even have regular meetings in the evenings because of the lighting system.
So you know be a light no starting book no so by can light na ni na ba for there's an ya ete chira you board no so there's an the watching na ya adwin ho sa ya be on se obeti by o kai se bia ka light wa na se bi se ka we nyina ere ambanti na sana ma wa adwin na
The absence of electricity is heavily impacting academic performance here.
For this community, I've taken all the students as my own. And as you can see, a parent and your child goes for a DC and then eventually the person fills up. At least you feel the pain. And sometimes, I sometimes wonder, how can I do to help them? Sometimes I try to even convey them from here to a nearby place where there is electricity so that I can at least demonstrate something for them to understand. And for once, you can't do that, and it's pathetic.
Good evening. How are we? I'm fine. Let's take our seats.
This has been the plight of the many graduates the community has produced. Look at Danso, once among the top brightest students of his class, recounts the ordeal he and his peers survived in their primary school days decades ago.
Every day, Kai say, me, I was once like you. Mikobisa, Mukras de cry you, Mukona ha, Buamaton and Echo, Monsieur Buye, we are a boy, Yakone Samba. We're 7 in number. And so when we were about writing BEC, we had asked to go into a different school because we were few. Unfortunately for us, when the results came, there was a single number. So we're like, it could either be Danso, Majid, Fatal, or another guy. But we had to go and check and find out who actually had the single number. And when we did that, we realized that Majid, my colleague in the video here, had a single number. In fact, it was, something very interesting. We're full of joy because we from the village with our lights, walking, for a long distance to school. But we were encouraged to learn because
The Amangwasi community is home to over 300 residents, founded nearly 50 years ago by laborers who traveled down south to work on a plantation. The village is seeing a growing population, but the community located on the fringes of the Jabe municipality in the Shanti region has since the time of its first settlers not experienced electricity. The residents have for years relied on torch lights, kerosene lamps, and in some homes, solar panels.
Because light in the hot. Obabi wo de obetimi aye no light ade be nsuo kura obeton na sebi wanye kakra de atwadua na mankola bibia sa ni ho enti sebi ye swale hanuma ade obetimi ade ndan ho light ni ho tinisa ye mba ye fasekan ne yakwafu akodo ne anya kakra ba be de abe ya mankola no light in de hu ye pa okuroma godo nyumle se kura nyame na boy ho ban ebu ono ma mbo atia ibi Ozo nam down sa light ni wondu hu nyanya na bobo obe so se wo hwe ade no bo nza aboara na mo a no wura de
even daytime cry hu friends police for hada maybe once in a while normal betwum echo so but me who say my friends security there nyame na ye dey e boy ho ban wa ha
In 2020, the community was thrown into a frenzy when some political actors arrived with electricity poles and assured them of connecting their homes to the national grid. But the poles were never erected. They now lie in weeds, almost deteriorating.
2020, and I left with 2 days as a yakotuaba. Near who say, car be at the poles here, a bakruma. Sadana, a new jeba krumha. And so, and the young to maintain your light. na omode pools na ere ebeto ho so na almost say boss oh you to abawi a omo ba be continue ayi na you to abawi e that time no na no was school so timi wo hana na committee for afa pools no e pese ye ko this dey assemble na yanko hu de o ye contractor na omode ba say wono na ese ka wodi adwuma na wo ka kire say ade no na I can pick a kind of model to her because almost yeah, you may be what you have been. Na post na Canada almost sadia. As a yen, a moment press a per light. No modern, or model. So, Umada die.
The joy that erupted the day diminished by the several nights that never came with electricity. The moments rather left a stark reminder of what they describe as political deceit.
I think of the light more than even getting myself as employed, because I look at the young ones, how I passed through. Were they able to do that? But time I because I could remember us in this village. Now we stay in this village. We walk from Mars to Kwaso. That's why I started my primary school. Was she's able to do that? So that's why we think like we have to come together, and we are appealing to anybody who is capable to come in our aid, because the situation is getting very worse.
Just as they have been forgotten in the dark, reaching their loved ones even through mobile phones and social media is a real struggle. On this heap of sand, I meet Ibrahim scrambling for internet connectivity to reach a friend.
Serious because lightning won't me and network so won't be see pool hano and the pool no cry and as I say network no cry fort bound I say network no cry network no fan the the light no so here because a drain blah once I'm landed and Kajanka light to Kruma another they enjoy kaka so light no teja do bobe no fan be a question them betinka light no word and a bit mat na bontiam na chakra so if I'm the light in you into me sad no man
na wabetina na de na we ntia internet here ntia na network here ntia wabetina ase
ampacho me chat
o chat one
madam for be no the chat
just one betina ha untimi ni wa down for na obi
David ko kra untimi ya and helper or hamper.
In the Jabe municipality, only 69.4% households have access to electricity from the national grid, with 16.5% households using flashlights, while 11.5% use kerosene lamps. Just like Amangwase, several communities within the municipality yearn for electricity. Adama Al-Hassan is the assembly member for the Diapompo electoral.
We have sent a proposal. On several occasions, they have made even requests. They have made a request that we should bring our problem with the challenge of the light. That is not only this community. We have submitted several communities. We have a community like Bankroso and other communities, even Yabokum. We didn't have light there. So we have made several submissions of documents indicating that we urgently need light here to support our people.
A recent electrification project in the adjoining communities ends less than 5 kilometers away from the village. This is a junction connecting 3 constituencies. On my right is a road that leads to Bosomtwe constituency. Right in front of me is one that leads to Bosome-Frimpong constituency. And behind me is one that leads to Amangwase under the Drabin constituency. And in the 2 constituencies, that's Bosomtwe and also Bosome-Frimpong, electric poles are running through the communities, and so for them they have lights. But unfortunately for the residents at Amangwase under the Drabin constituency, electricity is one they desperately look for. After decades in the shadows, the people of Amangwase are done waiting. Typically on weekends in villages, funerals, weddings or any other customary events take center stage. But today isn't like any of those days. The joy of the kids in this village as they dance to a traditional tune is one of a renewed hope to study at night without drudgery. The atmosphere under the tents at the event reeks of desperation and zest to see their village lit up at night after many years of neglect.
Oh boy, I say. Oh boy, 20 million. Oh wow. Wow. And Canadian into you. And I would 2,000. And Yabway and Canadian into.
From their meager incomes as farmers, the residents in one accord pool their resources together for the electrification project. From voluntary donations to auction sales of their farm produce, they must raise at least 400,000 cedis to connect their homes to the national grid.
The humanitarian grounds, I think we have not been fair to the people here, because if you don't have light, how do you do other activities? Like, for example, we are having this interview going on, so how do we even watch what we are going to show? It's worrying.
You see, above for DNA, you're Pencaniano, you're a Sabanse. Also, almost you are saying, you're very number by almost you are saying, no more cree, the question tumpon. You hear
electricity in the community is an end to a social canker in the village.
And it maybe na teenage pregnancy cost ye pa because the internet cost say na once ayesum enti enyabo no nsia kwa baby ayesum but light in nya ba shake ma be ma sa de ni nyina asesa ama disua no so ayeden akosuru ye pa.
So as we've worked how many examples? 4. Do anyone have a question on what we have studied so far?
For these children, studying at night is not a routine.
One thing that you need to
it is a struggle. A struggle against failing light, against fatigue, right? Against a system that has left them behind.
I feel bad because I can't learn ICT, and those in the city can learn ICT, and we are going to write the same exams. So somehow I feel bad. I'm pleading them to help us get electricity.
People have been in this situation, but they are able to rise up. But what if lights come again? We think it will help. That is taking some of us that no matter how, we all fight and fight until that day that the light will come to this community. I will never sleep. I will never sleep.
And as this community strains every muscle to raise 400,000 cedis for something many take for granted, one question lingers: how long should the people pay for what should already be theirs? For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
Ghana has initiated full diplomatic processes to clarify the circumstances surrounding the arrest and detention of MP for Asante Akyem Central Kwame Ohene-Frimpong in the Netherlands. However, information about his arrest remains scanty. And private legal practitioner Amanda Clinton says foreign law enforcement clearly do not trust Ghanaian authorities, and that is evidenced in the apparent refusal to share information with local security counterparts. According to Amanda Clinton, if there was mutual trust, the MP could have been arrested in Ghana and extradited to the foreign country seeking him and not be arrested in another foreign country.
The fact that he was arrested abroad is quite significant because it means it's an internationally coordinated investigation. Secondly, it also points to the fact that, do we as a country have the will to pursue politically exposed people and people within government? And if we don't, this is exactly the sort of pushback we get. It absolutely sends a signal to this government and to any government that will take place that international law enforcement perhaps did not trust the Ghanaian government enough to share information than they should have. Had they trusted them, we would have seen something like an extradition. But when you have somebody called a politically exposed person or someone in government, international law enforcement will say, well, if I share this with national security, if I share this with Yoko, if I share this with different departments, will that information be compromised? Will it spoil our investigation? And will it mean the person is put on notice so they don't get on a flight? And so what it indicates to me is that he wasn't put on notice per se. He got
Ordinarily, will they have put him on notice?
No, if our agencies were put on notice, quite sadly, what tends to happen is if our agencies were put on notice, some are government appointees and some would just share that information and it would filter down to a politically exposed person or someone in government. That is the fear from international agencies.
Let's get on to the telephone lines right now and speak to Majority Chief Whip Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo for some clarity. Welcome to the program. First of all, what are you learning about the arrest of the Asante Akyem Central MP, who is a member of the Majority Caucus?
First of all, let the record reflect that the honorable member was arrested Sunday morning en route to London on a private trip, even though he was traveling on his diplomatic passport, but the trip was a private one. And because he was flying in KLM, the transit naturally will be through Schiphol in Amsterdam. Now, let me address the issues raised by lawyer Amanda
Clinton.
Amanda Clinton. I believe that comments like that do not help the situation. Because as a colleague lawyer, she ought to have conducted some small search from within the security setup to ascertain for a fact that indeed this was never brought to the notice of the security agencies and whether indeed nothing was heard about it. So if you simply say that they did this because they don't trust our security agencies, it's most unacceptable. And those comments like that should not be coming from such high-ranking, highly regarded people with opinion in this country. So that is what I think that we should take note of. But the point is that the honorable member was intercepted, interrogated for some minutes, and was told that there's been a warrant issued by the United States government for his arrest and extradition. And as for a warrant of arrest, once it's issued and given to Interpol, it can be executed anywhere, whether it is known to your home country or not. And that's the fact about this matter. But be as it is, we have since Monday dawn done some coordination. We've gotten him a lawyer, a Hague-based lawyer, a Ghanaian that is based in The Hague. He practices in The Hague to assist him in terms of this matter. We are still waiting for the basis for the issuance of the warrant. We have seen some write-ups in social media. I think all those allusions and suggestions and insinuations should be disregarded because we are yet to know the basis for the issuance of the arrest warrant. So as we speak, the lawyers are working in The Hague, and some information has been asked. We have provided them, and so we'll see how it goes.
Right. You've criticized Amanda Clinton for suggesting that the persons behind the arrest perhaps did not trust our local security agencies. The reason why they may not.
It's a strong language.
Yes.
It's a strong phrase to use. You know? You can have your opinion, but to say that is because they don't trust.
Right.
Frantically, they don't trust our security agencies.
Chief Whip, at this point, information surrounding his arrest are very scanty, and you being in that position, I want to believe that you are more privy to a lot of information that most of us are not aware of. Do you have any information to the contrary, that perhaps they may have collaborated with our local security agencies?
Because this is a security matter, I am unable to speak to that. But
right.
To be honest with you, I was the first person he called when he had a crisis. And then I also called my principal, Donald Bayariga. He was then also in transit. He was in London, actually traveling to Ghana. But he cut it short and had to travel to Schiphol to go meet him. So leader went to engage him for about 2 hours in the detention. So and then we got the foreign minister to also coordinate it. Then we got the ambassador, Ghana's ambassador to Hague, to actually lead the discussion. So all the critical people, including the Attorney General, who is also doing an opinion on some aspects of the matter. So the matters are being properly coordinated. We are hoping that whatever the reasons are such that it may not escalate the matter and he will be released to return home.
Another concern that others are raising is that this is a certain member of parliament, and the appropriate way to have done this was to have written to parliament seeking his extradition. Was anything like that done that you're aware of?
As I speak, no such communication came to parliament from either the U.S. government or Interpol that affected the arrest. But it's an ongoing process. When we get to see the warrant itself, the content and the basis, maybe some other documentations may emerge to guide the process further.
You tell us.
But for the avoidance of doubt, no pure communication had come to the Speaker, the Clerk, or even to leadership of Parliament regarding this matter.
You tell us that he was arrested on Sunday. Since his arrest that particular day, you say that you were the first person he contacted. After getting him a lawyer, have you heard from him again?
Yes, we are in touch. We speak regularly. We spoke yesterday. We spoke in this morning. But this morning, I engaged the lawyers, not him, because if the lawyers need to speak to him, they have to go to where he's being restrained. So the engagement has been with the lawyers. We keep exchanging information. So he's fine.
Okay.
He's not been physically molested. He's not been harmed. He's fine. He's well. Just that his movement has been curtailed.
And do you have any information that he will be extradited to the United States?
Not yet.
Okay.
But a prosecutor has been appointed in the matter, and so the lawyer is in touch with the prosecutor in terms of information, as well as the Ghana's ambassador to the Hague. We are handling the matters, but we haven't gotten there yet. We are still asking for some information for purposes of verification, which we are providing.
And since you spoke to him, did he tell you the reason behind his arrest?
He himself doesn't know. He says he's not aware.
And the lawyer?
He doesn't know the reason why. In fact, he doesn't know the reason why. It's such a warrant issued for his arrest and extradition, if that's what it means.
Neither does the lawyer?
The lawyer is a new person who has come in, so he's not aware about anything brought to the event of Sunday till now.
Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, grateful for your time this afternoon, is the Majority Chief Whip in Parliament. Well, residents in Asante Akyem Agogo in the Ashanti region have expressed mixed reactions following reports of the Member of Parliament for the Asante Akyem North constituency, Kwame Ohene-Frimpong, has been detained at the Amsterdam airport in the Netherlands. Let's cross over to Asante Akyem, where my colleague Nana Boachi-Yadom is engaged in some constituents. Nana, what are they telling you, really?
So we are live from the Asante Akyem North constituency, and this happens to be the constituency of the independent Member of Parliament, Kwame Ohene-Frimpong, who has been arrested in the Netherlands. We are being told in a statement issued by the Clerk of Parliament that just yesterday there was a warrant issued by the United States for his arrest, and we are being told told that just Saturday, the Member of Parliament was in his constituency where he was engaging residents on some constituency matters. He cut short for some projects that was expected to commence in the coming weeks until he left the country on Saturday night, and then his arrest on Tuesday, which is just yesterday. The details we have is that it was through a warrant which was being issued by the United States for his arrest, and which took place at the airport in the Netherlands. We are in the constituency to engage with the residents to pick their reactions to what has happened to them. This happens to be one of the saddest reports that is coming in for the constituency here. When we came in, before we even decide to engage them, which we're yet to do, they spoke to us quietly about their remorse towards this particular development. So let's start from the Asante Akyem North. This happens to be a station, and listen to what the residents would have to tell us about this development. Endra na constituency ne minim sema anti asempa motia ne sema member of parliament ya Asante Akyem Kwame Ohene-Frimpong constituency isu di nim djuma odi wa anum so wote ye no na menema mutisema wa angasa
me efreme ya moa na me ne Samson Mosi Penny station master na bebia ona abo bia no yesre nwame eso on guide no na on fa no sambe kan sana de bisi asi enkoboko na mete asem ne de me hu dwiri me na minim se nyame ebeyi na free na me work no
na wo akokọ constituency ne dwuma di obo constituency ne mu no utimi di hu adanse
o wono de eye memen dawi akra oba ha ebe che a driver for ewa ha sika eso mo fento omo futuom wo san so dibi ma baba for a omo yitire nti wono de oyeni pa bia oye good. Okay, so
what he is also saying is that he's seeking God's protection for the member of parliament, and that he should, wherever he is, should have God's guidance and then be able to pass through this trial easily. He says that he's a witness to the great developments that the member of parliament has done in the constituency, and the fact that just Saturday he was in the constituency, donated money to the Drivers Union and also to barbers in the constituency. Microphones also the Namabonte say, oh, MP was a by election. Only on my adwin.
Oh, Yami be in the film, Domo Kenano. Me no me wa me nyini say. No cre. Yami be in the film.
It would be by election, they won't hear anymore.
Oh, Debbie, don't know. In Rubeye. Oh, now what you could on our best Abanich.
All right, so he's also saying that let's clear the thought of a by-election and that the MP is going to come back very soon. It's too quick to judge on a by-election. MP, and seminar, say.
It's someone that, in fact, I am more dreamy because name Jin the Crumple, but you take your money just there or in a car. So, you more. Domi no ne Samsung station me driver for be na boy ho ha me dey ya krampo no offer meeting ma ama 50mm to your accounts ma baba fu bi ama headers fu bi oh abon janka o ya do ekrom ha pa ense ya sanya kopon say o yin film na mfi aban amboa joma mambo na mfi on ro me bi no hu akwan ma fa so mayin no na mo yin mbra na Asante Akyem agogo no wa bo hempa pa wa ha. Masalache wa bonjanka wa bongo fu bebre ha mo me mfikrom ha me wotachiman na so mbakrom mu sawaya de pa.
So what he's also saying is that the MP has really committed to the development of the constituency, and that the president and everybody who can help should also come in to help and bring back their member of parliament. And opinion me also as a question me bisa no uti amanfo ka by election o hwa
election no against form teach no na amoya sar nimpa bia de Jesus Krapo onya tamfo nti nimpa bia asam to nimpa nimpa no mfomso nimpa de sawo ya papa na obi mpo odjolo so se papa na wo ya Krapo jaye nso ombra na mato no papa yeso by election ya njintum ya njintum agogofo nyama drivers yet car mama muka kanya tinina nti obia ya nti yanyi tum so by election.
All right, so he's also kicking against the thought of a by-election, saying that the MP has done a lot and must come to continue whatever that he started. Openyi me also on sunu ombe ya adwen reho mamo wadwen che wo sane maimu.
Oh, anopai de me tesa me ho poi na yenyina di areho awo musipani ene Samsu station ha say ema Honorable Kwame Ohene-Frimpong na men kwama from there yesre otwede ampo Nyankopon say o ma na bofo kronkron no se Nyankopon ene si ne hene dia na asem say ato no dia aginyame na ana obema na bofo no atimi akwakoyi no afri baabi dia wo no ebi setete di kanfo ni nyina ehun bi yechichi bi to afiase ani ade enso otwede ampo Nyankopon twitwaje wo mo etima onsuro ye dem paibo ani akonchin etanachi se bibia ebeye yie efise nyame ene yi obi free afiase enti otwede ampo Nyankopon esa enti tete kanfo no hu bi wo Bible mu ni ade dia sa no be hunti ese otwede ampo Nyankopon se on shene den enso ye dem paibo etanachi.
All right, yeah, that's the plan. So what he's also saying is that they are praying for the MP to come back peacefully and for God to also protect him wherever he is. Opinion also mama wadin check akrebi o support your mama kase yenva by election bra say Akyem MP.
Oh, me support ye bompa say nyame edi no beba. Tinya ade a eno beba so by election bia maso obesamba.
That's it. So he's also saying that he doesn't believe in the idea of a by-election and that the MP hopefully would return. Let me also speak to this gentleman here.
So that's my colleague Nana Boachi Yadom at Asante Akyem North constituency, where their MP has been detained in the Netherlands there. We will go back to that story in our subsequent bulletins. But in the meantime, though, we discuss two major issues shaping Ghana's political and economic conversation: the controversy surrounding the Bank of Ghana's 2025 losses and the MPP's attempt to redefine its policy direction after its 2024 electoral defeat. Questions have already emerged not only about the scale of the bank's losses, but also about conflicting figures being cited publicly by critics, including today's guest. At the same time, the MPP says its newly constituted policy committee will help rebuild the party and reconnect with voters. So today, what really explains the Bank of Ghana's losses? Is the debate economic or political? And what exactly is the MPP's new policy vision? Joining me in the studio is Kojo Oponin-Nkrumah. He's the Member of Parliament for Ofuase-Ayrebi constituency. He is also the ranking member on Parliament's Economy and Development Committee and chair of the MPP's newly constituted policy committee. Before I engage him, I want us to briefly go through the newly constituted committee, what it means, and some of the co-chairs of that particular committee. Right, so this is the official statement we got to that effect. It says that the New Patriotic Party, acting through its National Executive Committee and National Council, has constituted the various standing and sector committees of the party. This decision was taken at a meeting of the National Executive Committee and National Council. Held on Thursday, the 7th of May, the standing committees were constituted pursuant to Article 10(2)(6) of the party's constitution, while the sector committees were constituted in accordance with Articles 10(3)(8) and 14(5) of the party constitution. So these are the big names that are fronting some of the policy committees. These are familiar faces. So these four individuals were part of the persons who were seeking to lead the MPP into the 2028 elections. Notably, they competed with the eventual winner, former Vice President and the party's now flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Yao Oseyeduchum is a former Education Minister. He's now the co-chair of the Education Policy Committee. Brian Echampon is a co-chair of the Defense and Interior Committee. He is a former Minister for Agric. And Kennedy Gyasi is the co-chair of Employment and Jobs Policy Committee, and Kwame Ohene-Frimpong is the co-chair of the Roads Policy Committee. So, as I mentioned earlier, these four individuals were vying to lead the MPP into the 2028 elections, but they lost to the eventual winner, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who is now leading the party into the 2028 elections. Let's return to our touch screen again. And the second conversation that we're going to have this afternoon is about the Bank of Ghana's losses. So you look at the financial status of the Bank of Ghana, our central bank, dating back from 2008 to 2025. These are the official figures that have been given to us by the Bank of Ghana. You look at the last four, which are very peculiar. You see that from 2022 to 2025, the bank recorded losses. In 2022, the official figures that came from the Bank of Ghana was 60.8 billion Ghana cedi loss. We recorded 13.1 billion Ghana cedi in 2023. In 2024, it was 9.3 billion Ghana cedis. And in 2025, the official figure that was provided for by the bank was 15.6 billion Ghana cedis. This is one of the things that form the basis of our conversation this afternoon. And profit from sale of half of Ghana's gold reserves, according to the Bank of Ghana, amounted to 9.5 billion Ghana cedis. Right, so these are all figures that we got from the Bank of Ghana. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to form the basis of a conversation. It's one of the topics we are discussing with Kojo Opon Nkrumah this afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, he's the MP for Ofuasi-Ayerbi. He's also the chairman of Parliament's Economy and Development Committee, and also the chairman of the newly constituted Policy Committee of the MPP. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ken.
To the Majority Chief Whip, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, detailing what he knows so far. What do you know?
Nothing, except what we've all consumed through the mass media platforms, including social media. It's very unpleasant news. There's very little clarity on the reasons for which he has been restricted or, detained at Amsterdam. And I believe that as and when more information is available, it will be shared with the general public, including all of us, and we'll be in a good position to comment on it.
Right. Information is indeed scanty, so there's varying opinions. You had Amanda Clinton, who is a lawyer, saying that the FBI in the U.S. perhaps did not trust our security agencies, the reason why they may not have informed our security agencies about this possible detention. What's your take on that?
I also heard Roxanne seek to dismiss her submissions that she doesn't have any information to suggest that. But I don't think that you can dismiss that perception that, these international organizations may be doing this without collaborating with the Ghanaian security authorities because they don't have much trust in our authorities. I don't think you can dismiss that. We have done a number of things in the last couple of years that could give somebody watching on the outside reason to worry. You would notice that this administration came in and literally anybody who was associated with the NDC that was before the courts was let go, nolle prosequis, filed all over the place, and an attempt to chase everybody else on the other side. So if somebody interprets that to mean that the systems outside our jurisdiction may not be trusting that the systems within the jurisdiction will be doing a just, fair, and balanced job, I don't think that perception can be dismissed. As I mentioned, it's early days yet. It is not pleasant news. We need to get some more information, and then we can comment more deeply on it.
Right. Let's talk about the newly constituted Policy Committee of the MPP. What is it?
Well, the statement you read distinguished between two sets of committees that were formed. First are the standing committees in the party. So things like the party's finance committee, the party's organization committee, the party's communications committee, they are all committees that the party's constitution provides for and also sometimes even spells out the membership of. They are necessary for the day-to-day administration of the party. And then there is the second set of committees, which you would call the Policy Coordinating Committee. That's the one I chair. And then the sector committees that also work under the Policy Coordinating Committee. In essence, the whole idea, and these are committees that are already, provided for in the constitution of the party. This was the first time that they've been constituted. In fact, if you go back to, I think, just before the 2000 elections, you will find that these committees were very, very, very active. The whole essence of these committees is that for the period in which we are in opposition, a party that is serious about governing effectively, when it does win power, must use that period to think deeply and think clearly about the policy propositions to either resolve issues that we are faced with as a people today, or to take advantage of the opportunities that are around us. Because if you're able to, while in your opposition, think clearly through your policies and programs, you get about 4 major advantages. First of all, you as a party have internal clarity on what you are seeking to do and all of its nuances. How much does it cost? How long would it take to implement? What are the opportunity costs, etc.? You don't wait to come to power before you start forming committees to try to deal with them. That's number one. Number two, what it does is that it gives you the opportunity to engage multiple stakeholders who have views on all of these matters and to bring their input into the policy propositions and the programs that you formulate. I am very sure that as you've been anchoring this program, you have heard many instances in which government makes one announcement and stakeholders say, we were not consulted. You want to spend a lot of time doing all of that even before you assume office, so that the policies and programs you put on the table are well consulted on with the other elements in the society. Number three, you want to have ample time to market these policies and programs down to the nooks and crannies of our country so that everybody understands you. If you literally wait, 100 days to an election or 6 months to an election to put your policies and programs in a big manifesto, hardly do people even read it. And then finally, the advantage you have is that you're able to start from day one, you hit the ground running. So this is not new. The whole idea is that you do it while you are in opposition so that by the time you come to office, you can run. And so I think in the earlier slide that your colleagues projected, the very first one, you will find that about 21 committees that have been established in 4 thematic areas. Okay. So you'll find the committees that are in admin and governance, that's about 4 of them. So constitutional and legal affairs, foreign affairs, security, intelligence, defense, decentralization. You find about 8 economic sector committees. Those are the committees responsible for fine-tuning the ideas that are supposed to, generate growth and jobs and improvement in people's lifestyles. About 4 infrastructure committees and 5 social sector committees. And the whole architecture is that the flag bearer is at the very top. Then the policy coordinating committee works to, may I say, synthesize all of those that come in. And then you have the sector committees, some of which you elaborated who the chairpersons are. But to ensure that these committees don't just work hanging in the air and generating their own ideas, they also engage deeply, first with CSOs, faith-based organizations, academia and research institutions, and also you go down through the regional and constituency platforms to ensure that the ideas that you are generating are validated and have the input of the people on the ground. So that's the kind of architecture that the party has put together to bring forward these policies, these programs with which we hope to govern effectively the next time we have an opportunity. And the membership is drawn from about 6 different constituencies. You have the members of parliament and former members of parliament who have served on committees in parliament that deal with these sectors. Then you have the former appointees, former ministers, deputies, and appointees who worked in that area. We have a lot of people who are in academia and professionals who are affiliated with our party, who have views that they want to share and make input into. They have seats on these committees. You've got our colleagues in the diaspora, some of who work for international organizations, etc., who want to make an input. And then you've got your communication and social media teams, because whatever you are generating, you need to be able to get input from the general public and also be able to communicate it effectively to the general public. And then your youth representatives as well. So broadly, this is the architecture. And I think on the 25th of May, the flag bearer will be inaugurating these committees so that they can get to work and start putting together the MPP's next set of ideas for governance.
What made the headlines really were the former flag bearer hopefuls who were put in charge as co-chairs of various committees. What went into that?
Well, these are people who have outstanding experience in these areas. We are bringing our brightest and our best from all over the world together to, prepare policies and programs in these areas. And the flag bearer and the party thought it was very important to bring their expertise and their knowledge to bear on these sectors. So as you went through, these are people who are very well versed in these areas. It also helps the agenda of bringing everybody together. The contest is over. We are all now reorganizing for the future. And so that also helps that agenda very much.
And when it came, of course, there were a lot of pushbacks and some would say controversies that other parties said that they were not consulted, their leaders were not consulted, they were not aware, and so on. How did you handle that?
Well, I have not heard any of the persons themselves say so. I even saw people generate fake letters, etc., flying about. You must understand that there's a whole architecture that is aimed at always sprucing some discord within our exercise to unite and go forward. What we are interested in is focusing on the facts and the forward-moving exercise. And so I'm informed the necessary background conversations took place. I even heard some of the spokespersons on your platforms openly saying that, yes, they were consulted. And we're optimistic that all hands will be on deck as we work forward.
Another thing is that people say there are not a lot of youth within these committees. Is that the case?
I think it's because people haven't seen the membership of the committees. If you read the statement from the General Secretary, for these committees, it was only the leadership that was named. And the membership has not been put out. They will be inaugurated on the 25th. And I'm very sure that you'll see a lot of young, faces within the membership. Also in the leadership, there were even slots that were reserved for young people. Sometimes merely by reading the name, because there's no age or maybe a photo associated, you may not be able to identify that, this is apparently a young person in the party. And I'm sure that by the 25th, when we see the embodiment of all the persons, that issue will be laid to rest.
So what's the end goal of these committees that have been set up?
Very, very strong policies and programs that are aimed at impacting the lives of Ghanaians. A lot of Ghanaians today say that, yes, we're seeing very interesting figures at the very top, but our lived experience does not seem commensurate with that. A lot of Ghanaians are still talking about the fact that there are many, many, many pressing issues around them that are not being attended to. What you want to see these committees do is to generate the policies and the programs that respond to the things that matter the most to the Ghanaian people. And as we go along and as these are being developed, you will see them being put out, sometimes by the flag bearer himself, sometimes by the parliamentary caucus, sometimes by the party itself.
And then I took that to mean that their inputs will be very, very much valued when it comes to the manifesto of the party heading into the 2028 elections.
So you don't want to wait till then to develop a manifesto. You are building it on a regular basis as you are going forward with all of these inputs and these ideas. And you're also providing alternative propositions to deal with some of the issues that the government is attempting to deal with now. And the general public, stakeholders have an opportunity to compare, even as at now, not waiting till manifesto time, even as at now, what this government is doing, what the alternative proposition is, and then they can make a choice even as we go along.
When will their work be over?
They're going to be working, permanently from now till 2028, and even post-2028, because they are, committees that are established by the Constitution, they will be working to provide feedback to the government. If we are in government by then, they'll be working to provide feedback to the government. So the government itself knows, are we deviating from the program that as a party we have developed and that the people have bought into? So it's going to be an ongoing exercise that they work under.
Now let's talk about the Bank of Ghana, their 2025 loss. The bank put out an official statement that they lost 15.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. You and the minority have challenged those figures. Why?
I wish you could project either the bank's accounts, I think page 16, or the frequently asked questions that the bank put out. And you will realize that what you just said is the narrative that the NDC keeps repeating and therefore hopes and expects that people will keep repeating. Because the bank's report that they put out says that they lost 15.6 billion under their general operations, and then they also lost 19.3 billion when you go to their other comprehensive income accounts. And together, when you go to their balance sheet, you will see that the bank proceeds to adjust their balance sheet by deducting 34.9 billion from their previous net equity. That tells you the true quantum of the loss that has been occasioned by the Bank of Ghana. Now remember, we've told you that what has happened is that for the first time in the history of the bank, because the current government didn't want you or anybody else to pay attention to the accounts, they started off for the first time by coming to do a press conference to put out first the figure of 15.6, as though that was the only figure. So you see many people repeating it. But when you go into the accounts yourself, and that's why I've asked that your producers project either the frequently asked questions and page 16 of the bank's account, where they deal with more or less their balance sheet. And you see that all those numbers are there. But for us, we are even clear in our mind that that matter is settled. It's only the uninitiated who keep going around bandying about the 15.6. Any person who understands accounting, who looks at the numbers, understands it. For us, the more important thing is, how do we recover? Where do we go from here? And that's why the Minority Caucus has issued a 9-part proposal on what needs to be done immediately to correct what's happening at the Bank of Ghana.
So what's the true figure of the loss incurred by the BOG in 2025?
I've just mentioned it to you, and I can go over and over again. If you can project it on the screen, we can go through it together. It's 15.6 plus 19.3. Together is 34.9. So when you go to the balance sheet, you will find that the balance sheet is adjusted by deducting the 34.9 from their net equity. It's all there in black and white. If your colleagues will project it, I'm sure both of us and our viewers will be able to.
Right, I have that one here. That's the frequently asked questions. It says that the bank reported an operating loss of $15.63 billion, another comprehensive income, that is OCI loss of 19.3. So
you see, they've mentioned two losses there. What you just read.
Yes.
They've mentioned two losses there, 15.6 and 19.3. Put the two together, gives you 34.9. If you go to their balance sheet, you will find that the balance sheet is now adjusted by deducting the 34.9, that whole amount, not just the 15.6, the whole amount from their net equity. In fact, in that same paragraph that you read, they will also tell you that their net equity has jumped from what? They'll give you the figure from about, I think about 61 or so to about 90 something. The difference again is 34.9. You'll find it there in the statement. So as I mentioned, it's only the uninitiated who goes around shouting that it's 15.6. But as I again mentioned, that matter, for us, the data speaks for itself. What is important is, how do we recover from here? What are the things that need to be done to get the bank's books back on its toes? And I repeat, we've put together a 9-part plan, which we've made available publicly to the government, to the IMF, that these things need to be done now. Remember that the things that caused this loss are things that we've been speaking about from the beginning of the year. The sterilization as an instrument in an attempt to fight inflation, the what we call in simple terms pumping of dollars into the economy, which the Bank of Ghana wants to call market intermediation. We were the ones who started telling everybody that this is what is going on, this is what the cost is going to be. The government, throughout that period, 2025, denied it ad infinitum. It was only getting to the end of the year when the numbers started speaking for themselves that they admitted the 10 billion market intermediation. And even when we came up with the fact that it was causing losses on the books of the Bank of Ghana, they rejected in fact, 2 probes have been rejected, which will have given you an opportunity to understand what is happening there. So consistently, we have flagged these issues, and we continue to flag it and to make the point that we need to put in place remediation measures now. Those are the calls that we are making.
Right. I asked you for clarity on the amount or the losses of the BOG. You mentioned that 34.9 billion Ghana cedis, correct? At your May 3rd
and I gave you the breakdown of the 34 points.
You did.
Yes.
At your May 3rd press conference, you said the true operating loss was 34.9 billion, which you've just mentioned.
Yep.
You then said when gold sale proceeds of 9.6 billion Ghana cedis are factored back in,
yes,
the figure rises to 44 billion Ghana cedis. Yep. But in your social media exchanges with Sami Jemfi, you referred to the bank's code substantial 34.9 billion Ghana cedis. So I need clarity, which is which, 34 billion Ghana cedis or 44 billion Ghana cedis?
You've just answered the question.
No, I haven't.
I'm
asking you the question.
Okay, so take your time and follow me. You will find 15.6 in the first paragraph of the statement that you read. 15.6 operating loss and 19.3 other comprehensive loss. That's 34.9. And we have consistently said that that is the figure that you will find that the balance sheet is adjusted by. When you do accounting and you go to your balance sheet, you adjust your equity position by the total of your profit or your loss. So when you go to the equity position, you will see that it's adjusted by 34.9. We've also said that even the first figure of the 15.6, how they arrived at it was by reducing the previous loss. You know the first slide that you showed where you highlighted the gold proceeds? What they did was that they reduced the initial loss by selling 50% of this slide, by selling 50% of our gold reserves to generate revenue of 9.5 billion cedis. And that is why we have explained that if you add that back, you get a sense of the size of the challenge at the central bank for the year 2025. And the size of that challenge, if you add it back, is 44 billion. That 44 billion is reduced by this 9.5 so that it comes to 34.9. And that 34.9 is split into two. The 15.6 that you will find on the operating accounts, and then the 19.3 that you will find on the other comprehensive income. So you find the 15.6 here, you find the 19.3 here. And then if you add back the sale of the gold, that's where you go to that figure.
I'm looking at, you mentioned page 16 about the Bank of Ghana's account. The Bank of Ghana's accounts on page 16 openly disclosed other comprehensive income figures alongside the total comprehensive income. I'm looking at it right now. The bank concluded, per what we saw there, that it did not hide the figures. Both the operating loss and the OCI were published in the same audited statement. So there are concerns.
You've just said that the bank admits in their statement that they didn't hide the figures. That's what you've just said.
Yes.
Now, we have not said that the bank hid the figures. We have said that the figures, and that's why I said project it on the screen, the figures are in the accounts. What the NBC doesn't want you to do is to go and look at the figures. So they keep bandying about the 15.
Okay, so if I get you correctly, the bank has been transparent, but the NDC hasn't.
We have never said that the bank has hidden figures. We've said the NDC, that doesn't want you to pay attention to the account yourself, is the one that, they were the ones who came to do the press conference to try to announce the bank account. They didn't let you go and see the accounts yourself, because if you had gone to look for it, you read it in detail and you find...
We've seen it.
Yes, you will find both the 15 and the 19, just like what the bank has said, that they didn't hide it. It's all there. It is the NDC, remember, that did a press conference on the Thursday, and in that press conference, what did they do? They put out 15.6 saying that that was the size of the true loss. But I've explained to you that this matter, in my view, respectfully, it speaks for itself. The data is there. The most important thing now is the question of how do you resolve it? Because if you keep denying it, you keep pushing it under the table, you will not be able to put together a clear remediation plan. And that is the essence of the 9-part plan that we have put on the table before the people of Ghana.
The bank did explain the reasons for their losses, the stabilization of the cedi, bringing down inflation to below 4%, and other major economic interventions. Do you think these interventions did not work?
We've addressed that question over and over again. That, again, pay attention to the accounts and disaggregate it. You have about 16 billion cedis spent on open market operations. And we are arguing that about 50% of that amount did not need to have been spent unless the bank actually reversed the original policy for mopping up excess liquidity. There used to be a policy position especially on foreign exchange, may I say, deposits. That helped to mop up deposits or excess liquidity in the economy without having to pay for it. The bank has reversed that, and they are paying for it. That's money that they could have mopped up for free. They are paying for it. We've also explained to you that the approach for the gold purchase program has been amended, and it's leading to huge costs. Remember, at the time we raised it initially, the debt was about 2.5 billion Ghana cedis. And we kept saying it was important for Parliament to investigate that. The majority side of Parliament has blocked that investigation.
Okay.
The gold sale exercise, the Honorable Patrick Boama filed a motion to have it investigated. That's also been blocked. Those elements contribute about 9.5 to about 9.6 billion Ghana cedis of the loss. So we hear the explanations that they've given, but we look at the numbers as well, and we can also tell that what they are saying is only half of the story.
There are also concerns that the bank, quote unquote, is on borrowed time because of how much they have incurred within the last year. Is that something that you share with?
Two things. If the bank is not recapitalized ASAP, then they are on borrowed time. They have a negative net equity of 96 billion. You see the statement you read from 93. Your phone? No, 96. Go to the statement you read from your phone, the FAQs.
Okay.
The one you read from your phone. That same paragraph where they admit 15.6 and
96.8
exactly.
billion.
I have read this document like any other document. They will tell you that they are in negative net equity of 96.2 billion. What does that mean? It means that literally if you match their assets to their liabilities, it's in the negative of 96 and they need to be recapitalized. So the government needs to put in place a credible, actually that's point number 1 on our 9-point plan for resolution. The government needs to put in place a credible, transparent recapitalization plan. We've rolled it all out here. I have a copy here which I can give to you. The government has the responsibility to put in place a credible recapitalization plan that clears up this 96 billion negative equity as quickly as possible and puts the bank in the positive. Else then they will be on a borrowed time. Secondly, we've been raising the issue that the bank is policy insolvent. If you go to page 7 of the accounts, they define policy solvency, and actually that is the policy solvency equation there. It is when you add all of those revenues to total 22 billion out there, and then you deduct the cost of open market operations, the cost of monetary operations. That's the 16 billion. That gives you the 5.5. And the bank argues that they are policy solvent because they got 5.5 positive as against 793 positive of the previous year. So they are doing better this year. But you see, even you here at Joy News, you've highlighted that red line. Net gain from the sale of refined gold, which is a one-off item. It's not part of your regular activities. And you notice, interestingly, that in 2024, the figure there is what? 0. So in 2024, the bank did not need to sell gold to be policy solvent. In 2025, the bank needed to sell 9.5 billion Ghana cedis of gold before they became policy solvent. And that is why we have said that a central bank that needs to sell gold or sell one-off assets before it becomes policy solvent is living on borrowed time. But what we need to do is to stop hiding from these facts. The numbers speak for themselves. Confront the situation head on so that the central bank is put back on its feet.
Speaking about the negative equity of over 96 billion Ghana cedis, analysts have argued that the main driver of this was the domestic debt exchange program, which happened under your tenure. That is what is driving the bank to negative equity of over 90 billion Ghana cedis. It happened during your government, as I mentioned earlier. So how do you hold the current administration responsible for losses which are attributable to things that happened during the MPP?
The losses are not attributable to things that happened in the MPP's era. And again, I encourage our colleagues not to keep repeating the NDC talking points. The net equity has been reduced by 34.9 billion this year alone.
But the main driver, is the domestic debt exchange.
No, that's not true. The 34.9 billion, it has nothing to do with the domestic debt exchange program. You have just said it. They said they were using open market operations. That's a figure there, 16.7. And then on the gold side, they lost another about 9.5 or so. Those are the ones that have contributed to this 34.9. It has nothing to do with domestic debt. And this has happened on their watch. There is a balance brought forward from the years before then, which, yes, includes the 2022
Domestic debt
exchange, yes. You've got to be factual. There's a balance of the past which includes that and other things. It cannot be said that the same party, that when in 2022, the Bank of Ghana paid 48 billion to support the economy in the domestic debt exchange program. And they said it amounted to mismanagement, the governor should resign. Today, they claim that the Bank of Ghana has paid and has lost 34.9 billion to fight inflation and to support the currency, and that is good. Those double standards are just unprincipled. If it is okay for the bank to spend money to work for the economy on the watch of the MPP, then you can say it is okay for them to do same on the watch of the NDC. You cannot say.
But the argument,
you cannot say.
Joe, the argument they make is that during the difference between what happened during the MPP's time and what is happening right now is that inflation is at a single digit. The exchange rate has gone down relatively. Other economic indicators have improved.
So go back into the accounts. Don't just buy this general argument. Go back.
I'm not buying into general argument.
I'm saying
the inflation is below 4%, no?
It doesn't mean that inflation that came below 4% was necessarily as a result of all the money they spent on the open market operations or what they did in terms of dumping forex onto the market. No. You may have inflation coming down to 3.5, 3.8 as a result of a certain number of factors. Today's inflation is at 3.5, 3.8, but the sterilization that has gone on didn't need all to be paid for. Remember, we have said over and over again that there were instruments that were being used to mop up excess liquidity on the market, which instruments were not being paid for. We had the dynamic cash reserve ratio, which ensured that the central bank could mop up money without paying for it. You had the CRR, which ensured that if you had foreign currency, the central bank would take the cedi equivalent so that you are denied of the cedi equivalent to come and buy back government paper with it. And so the central bank will get that money without having to pay for it. On the watch of this administration, they've reversed the CRR. And as a result, there's excess liquidity on the market and they have to pay for it. So you could have achieved the same objective without having to spend that money. So I say that people should not just get into this thing of inflation is down at 3 point something, and therefore the Bank of Ghana is justified in the losses they have made. Here's my point. By the way, if inflation is down to 3.4%, does not necessarily mean that your lived experience is recording as much. I've been watching on social media people complaining about their rent bills go up, about their light bills go up, about their water bills go up, about hostel fees that are going up, about fees and things that they need to pay for, whether students are writing exams, etc., that are going up. So the cost of what they are doing to achieve this figure, and dangle that figure before you that is down to 3.2, must also be measured with your own lived experience. And that's the point we make to Ghanaians. But I go back to the point. Whatever you do, the Bank of Ghana's books have been impaired by 34.9 billion. It's on page 16 of the accounts. I've asked you a number of times to get your producers to project it so that everybody can see it. It's there in black and white. Now, that 34.9 billion Ghana cedis reduces the net equity to now 96 billion Ghana cedis. You find it in paragraph 1 of their statement.
Yeah.
And that negative capital of 96 billion needs to be repaid, needs to be capitalized. That is where we need to focus our attention as number one. Number two, the things that are being done that are causing these losses, the government needs to pull the brakes. So, for example, on the gold side, we have argued that the structure they are using is what is causing the losses. It's not the fact that it's sitting on the Bank of Ghana's books. The government now says that they are no longer going to put the losses on the Bank of Ghana's books. You should be asking the question, so where are they taking the losses now? Because we're still going to incur those losses. On the inflation control measures, the government says that they are no longer going to be, or the bank says that they are no longer going to be mopping up that significant amount of money. Today, I think today it's been reported that they've already done about 19 billion or so in terms of sterilization. Last year they did about 93 billion. It's all in the accounts. They've done about 19 billion currently. And if you compare what they've done from January till now to what they did last year, I fear that if they don't pull the brakes back, it's going to get worse. And so ours is to first highlight the problem. You can deny it as much as you want. The numbers will show you up. But secondly, is to provide the alternative propositions on what needs to be done. And again, we make the point that attention should be paid to those alternative propositions we are putting on the table.
Do you see these losses as a mismanagement on the part of the POG?
Say again?
Do you see these losses as a mismanagement on the part of the Bank of Ghana?
In all our analysis so far, we have not accused them of mismanagement. We have been exposing what they have been doing. Let me take you back. At the beginning of 2025, when the currency appreciated, it was us in the minority who said that nothing much has changed in the economy. What the government is doing is that, or what the Bank of Ghana is doing is that, they are doing market intervention. They denied. The governor came out and said it wasn't true. When the Bishops' Conference went to see the president, they raised it that we see appreciation, we think it's good, but the minority is warning that actually it's just intervention that is being done. The president said it's not true. Later in the years, we kept showcasing the numbers. You recall, the IMF came in and then told the government to suspend the intervention and have a proper framework signed off before they continue. And so when they suspended, the currency started depreciating again. So later, when the journalists went to the Jubilee House for the press briefing, one of the journalists asked the president. And the president admitted for the first time, what we had been saying all along was that, yes, they were doing intervention. The Bank of Ghana had stopped it, and that's why the depreciation of the currency had started. What does it mean? It means that the moment that intervention is not taking place, the moment we are not taking that medication, we are back to square one. And we had warned that that exercise was going to lead to losses on the back end, losses that you eventually come and pay for. Very well. When they resumed it, by the end of the year, they were forced to now admit that the total intervention they had done was about 10 billion. And now the losses were crystallizing at around 9 billion Ghana cedis. That is what now the Bank of Ghana has come out to admit. So we've been consistent. We haven't accused them of mismanagement, but we've been consistent that there must be candor in what you are doing so that we can see the cost and the opportunity cost and that we can deal with it. If you go to the sterilization side, we were the first people, I think it was right here in your studios, when we said that they had, at the time, they had sterilized about 62 billion. They denied it right here in your studios. That wasn't true. At the end of the year, the Bank of Ghana reports that they sterilized 93 billion. And that 93 billion is what came at that cost you see on your screen, 16 billion. And by the way, this 16 billion is what they paid to the commercial banks, not to lend to the public, but to bring the money to the central bank and get interest on it. And so you will see that real growth in private sector credit is dwindling. And that's why the public will tell you that there's no money in town because the government has sterilized all of those ones. And we've said over and over again that the methods they are using matter. There must be candor in the methods so that you can see the cost. Why? Because now this 96 billion you are going to pay. I am going to pay. Your cameramen who are here, we are all now going to have to pay this 96 billion. So it is important that ab initio, we are clear that this is what we are doing. This will be the cost. And this is how we'll pay for it at the end of the day. And that has been our consistent story from the beginning of 2025 till now. Until now, we are telling you that this is what is happening, and the government has to put in place a plan. Again, they are continuing with the exercise of denial. The truth will come out.
What plan would you rather put in place?
A recapitalization plan, a clear, transparent, time-bound recapitalization plan.
Will it work?
On the table. Well, they have to put in place a plan because you can't allow the Bank of Ghana to keep sliding from about 61 to now 96. That's a difference. That shows you the true loss that they have incurred for the year. And if you don't do it now, it's probably going to go back further into what, 120, 150, 160, 200 billion Ghana cedis? No, you can't do that. So you have to recapitalize the central bank now. You need to put in place a clear plan. Another thing, if you look at point number 2 on our recommendations, is that recapitalization plan must be included in our next fiscal strategy. We have to be clear how we are going to pay for that recapitalization going forward. And it should be between the short to medium time because the Bank of Ghana doesn't have a lot of time. We've also mentioned that going forward, all the quasi-fiscal operations that they've been doing, whether on the gold programs or the foreign exchange support operations, must be fully disclosed. It didn't have to take the minority from about March 2025 to be sounding the alarm and for them to be denying only to be exposed by documents. They must be fully disclosed. Why? So that they can be planned for. The necessary contingencies can be put in place. And then the policy reversals that they have done, which are contributing to this, we strongly encourage that they should be reviewed. This document was put out on the 7th of May, 2026. Unfortunately, it appears that people are more interested in an exercise of, is it 15 or 34 The numbers are there. Everybody should go and look. You find it is 34. But now let us quickly find out how do we resolve the situation.
The BOG has recorded losses 4 consecutive years. They've recorded losses
22, 23, 24, and 25.
That's 4.
Yes.
Yes. So somewhere in 2022, for instance, they recorded over 60 billion Ghana cedis.
Because they paid about 48 billion on the domestic.
The following year, they recorded loss. They recorded consecutive losses. There are many who are asking that if you are holding the NDC government to such high standards, you are holding the Bank of Ghana to such high standards, proffering solutions for them to do. Why didn't you proffer those solutions when you were in government?
We did. This is how come the loss. This is
what
how
happened.
Coming. So in 2020, I hope you don't have a short memory. In 2020, this country's economy was literally shut down for some months. Government revenues struggled, but government still needed to pay bills. Remember, teachers were not going to work, were being paid, were spending money on free water, free electricity, doing a number of things to ensure that lives and livelihoods were protected. By 2022, debts had been racked up. And as part of the resolution, there was a domestic debt exchange program. The Bank of Ghana alone paid 48 billion. That was when it went into loss of about 60 billion cedis that particular year. In the following year, 2023, you'll recall that the Bank of Ghana now started reducing its loss very sharply from the 60 billion loss to about, again, if you go back to the histogram that you put up on the screen, it was to about 13 billion Ghana cedis. In fact, the original account said 10 billion. When they later did the final numbers, then they said 13 billion. In the third year, that was, yes, those are the slides, 13.1 billion. In the third year, that is 2024, I can tell you on authority that the Bank of Ghana turned profitable.
How did they turn profitable when they made losses?
Good. So again, go into the balance sheet. You will find that it is in 2024 that the Bank of Ghana changed its accounting policy. You see, before 2024, both the other comprehensive income and then the operating income were put together in the operating account. Are you hearing me? Both of them were put together. So the 60 billion loss that you see, it is both OCI losses and operating losses. In 2023, the 13.1 you see, it's both OCI losses and operating losses. But in 2024, for the first time, and the 2024 account, remember, was prepared and signed and published in 2025 on the watch of this new administration. They changed the accounting standards. They were no longer using the International Financial Reporting Standards. They were now using their own accounting principles. So in that principle, they moved the OCI losses off the balance sheet. So that 9.3 that you see...
That's profit?
I didn't say it's profit.
You said profit.
No, I said I can tell you that in the end they made profit.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Okay.
That 9.3 that you see excludes the profit from the OCI account. I really wish your colleagues would put the page 16 up there because you will see it up there.
So if the profits were to have been added to this, would it have gone positive?
Put page 16 up there. Put it up there. I'll show you on the screen.
My producers are working on that.
If you add it, you will see that it's profit. And I'll show you the key. When you go to the balance sheet for 2024, you'll find that instead of the negative net equity position getting worse, it got better. Why? Because the cumulative effect of the operating loss and the OCI loss, when you put it together, it was, I think, profit of about 4.5 billion Ghana cedis. And so the negative net equity improved by about 4.5 billion Ghana cedis. Again, if they put page 16 there, you will see it, and our viewers will see it. So in 2024,
they're working on it.
Good. The 2024 account is not on the same accounting formula and principles like the 2023 and the years before. That is the accounting standard that they've used for 2025, and that's why KPMG qualifies it. Well, it's not technically qualification, but they make a note in it that these accounts were not prepared with IFRS. In fact, the directors of the account, they make that same point, that this account was not prepared with IFRS, and that they use their own accounting standards to do it. In that accounting standard, they've removed the OCI profit or loss from the operating. That's in another one. That's the one they show you in the first paragraph of the statement that is 15.6, and then there's the OCI of 19. But prior to 2024, the two were together under the operating account. You can file an RTI request to the central bank and ask them specifically that was the accounting standard changed for the 2024 account? And is it true that they have now split it so that OCI losses are sitting in a different basket and then the operating losses are sitting in a different basket? They will tell you that, yes, that's the case. So when you put it together, you can compare it to the previous year's account. So here's my answer. Those losses were being reduced, and by 2024, the combined effect was that they had gone into profit. And so you expect that they will continue back on a profit path. It is the decisions that have been made now that have now slipped them into a combined loss of 34.9. And we even argue that that 34.9 is because they had to augment it with the 9.5, which you highlighted on your screen. If you adjust for that 9.5, the true figure is the 44. But I make the point one more time. The most important thing now is to stop the denials and confront the fact that we need to recapitalize the central bank. We need to ensure that these reversals of policies are stopped. We need to ensure that the central bank is policy solvent going forward.
You asked if I had, you want to hope that I don't have a short memory. I don't.
No, I know you don't. It's a general comment.
Yes, I remember in 2021 when the free water and other freebies were announced. You were information minister by then.
Yes.
You later came out to say that we're going to pay for it.
Yes.
You did say that we are going to pay for it. So indeed, Ghanaians paid for those freebies.
Taxes were imposed. I'm coming. Taxes were imposed that were supposed to generate revenues to help pay for it.
They didn't meet the target.
You did analysis here. I mean, Joy News did analysis here of how the e-levy and the rest failed woefully. Did they achieve their target?
Oh, so e-levy and those taxes that were described as nuisance taxes.
You did analysis here.
I'm coming. Yeah. So the e-levy, you say, and other taxes, which the then opposition NDC described as nuisance taxes, were to cater for these freebies.
Let me take you back to 2021. When those taxes were imposed, and the question was asked, what are they for? In particular, the COVID.
Sorry to interrupt. My producer is asking the page so that he puts it up there. You were
16.
Page 16.
When those taxes were imposed, this is it. If you like, we can go to the screen for me to demonstrate something to you. When those taxes were imposed, and the question was asked that, what are they for? The COVID levy in particular. The answer we gave was that at the time we heard things that were free to the public, but they were not free to the Treasury. The Treasury had to pay for it. The Treasury is now in debt, and that debt needs to be cleaned up. You ask yourself whether those taxes succeeded. And we've done the analysis here over and over again. Those taxes did not necessarily succeed. Now, when we then got into a high debt distress position, we had to do a debt exchange, a very painful debt exchange program. That was when the central bank had to pay 48 billion to support that program. And that 48 billion is what now led to their loss of 60 billion for that year. And I mentioned to you that from that year onwards, they were reducing their losses. And into 2024, if you go up on the screen, so watch something. You see the other comprehensive income for the year. I think you should come up to the screen for us to demonstrate something to your viewers.
Right.
This is more or less the balance sheet of the central bank. This is the 15.6 that they keep talking about, that look at only this one. But when you look at the balance sheet, apart from this, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which all add up together to give you another loss of 19.3.
Okay.
When you put the 15.6 and the 19.3 together, you will come up with a figure that is here. This is the total comprehensive income. It's a negative, so it means loss for the year. This is the 34.9 on the balance sheet of the central bank. Now, let me show you this 19.3 loss, which you add to the 15 to come to the 34.9. The previous year, 2024, it was in surplus of 13.5. Are you watching this?
I am.
It was in surplus of 13.5. This 13.5 positive, you have to add it to the negative of 9.3 or 9.5? As the headline.
9.6.
This was it. The 9.3. Good. So this 9.3. This 9.3 for 2024 for the group. You add it to this, and this is the profit of the central bank for the year 2024. This is the total comprehensive income. It's not negative. This is the profit. Ask any accountant to come and look at this balance sheet and tell you the true implications. This is it. But this year, what was profitable, the thing they say don't look at, this 19 that they say don't look at, last year was profitable. But they changed the accounting standards and moved it onto the balance sheet. You won't see it. I mean, moved it on to the other comprehensive income. You won't see it on the operating accounts. That's why they keep repeating to you that the operating account was in loss of. It's true. But apart from that operating, please go back. Apart from that operating loss of 9.3, there was other comprehensive income of 13.7. This is how you read the balance sheet of the central bank. And this year of the bank specific, this is it. They keep telling you, look at 15, don't look at 19. Keep saying 15, don't look at 19. But it's 15 up here and it's 19 down here. And the bank's own balance sheet says 34.9. So when you go to the negative net equity, you'll find that the negative equity, they didn't use 15.6 to adjust it. Okay. They used 34.9 to adjust it. And so that's why I say to you that over the years, you find that the Bank of Ghana was improving. It's the decisions they've made now that have worsened the situation. And those are the decisions that we are calling for a reversal ASAP. Else, they can deny it as much as they want, but we'll get to a day where the BOG will now be telling us that their net equity is now in negative, what is it, 100, 120, 130? We don't want that.
Okay, so that's the statement on your screen right now, which Kojo opponent Nkrumah just ran us through, making the argument that the Bank of Ghana made such huge losses. Kojo, we were speaking about the taxes that were introduced by your government as interventions to remedy the economy after the COVID-19 pandemic, and you argue that those taxes didn't work.
I'm saying they didn't achieve the objectives that they were supposed to achieve. What did the e-levy get? What was the target? What did it achieve? Measure the target and measure what it achieved. Because it was introduced with a certain fiscal analysis to raise a certain amount of money. It didn't achieve, I think, even 20 or 30% of what it was supposed to achieve.
And the COVID levy?
I don't have those numbers readily available. But in any case, this is why people voted the MPP out of power. People were not satisfied with the measures that we put in place. We are in, May 2026. The accounts have come in, and we have made the point that it is important to take some steps to resolve the issues at the central bank. Some of those other steps that we have also proposed is that the accounting treatments that they are now employing should be reviewed. We have now asked all the banks to use IFRS.
Reviewed by KPMG?
Reviewed by the central bank.
Okay.
The board of the central bank took a decision, I've just demonstrated to you, in 2025, first quarter, to amend the accounting structure of the central bank, to use their own internal accounting standards. If you go to where the auditor statements are on the account, if your producers go there, you will find it. They took a decision to change it. But this is at a time when we've asked all the banks that they should go to IFRS. Why is the central bank moving away from IFRS when you've asked all the central banks, all the banks to go to IFRS? Because you want to have some element of comparability of treatment. That when people say this is this, you can compare it across board.
Okay, this is the KPMG.
This is a KPMG statement. If you have opportunity to read it, you'll find it there. They state it clearly that this is not in accordance with IFRS standards.
I asked you earlier whether you think the bank was on borrowed time.
I explained in two parts.
Okay.
That if you do not recapitalize, then you're on borrowed time. If you don't solve the policy solvency questions that you have and continue to operate this way, then you're on borrowed time.
They haven't solved it, have they?
Say again?
They haven't solved it, have they?
Well, the bank is not commented on that. Is the NDC political group that is very loud in trying to defend the bank because of things they said in the past. I know that a lot of officials at the central bank agree with us that they need to be recapitalized ASAP, and that their policy solvency position is one that also needs to be considered on a sustainable manner, so that they don't have to be selling assets, one-off assets, before they become policy solvency. They agree with us themselves.
Right, because if you look at the policy solvency of the bank, for instance, that is its capacity to fund its own monetary operations without recourse for monetization, it actually rose. It rose from
700
million to over 5.5.
I just took you through the numbers.
Over 5.5 billion.
I just took you through the numbers. That is because they had a one-off item. So, by the way, on the issue of the accounting standards, look there up on the screen where the auditors draw attention. It says, look at line 2. It says the consolidated and separate financial statements are prepared in accordance with the group. You know here the group is the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana group.
the group's own accounting policies to satisfy the financial information requirements per the Bank of Ghana Act, as amended by the Bank of Ghana Amendment Act, the Bank of Ghana Amendment Act again, and the Public Financial Management Act, as amended by the Public Financial Management Act again. As a result, the consolidated and separate financial statements may not be suitable for another purpose. Our opinion is not modified in respect to this.
Can you read that last line again? As a result?
As a result, the consolidated and separate financial statements
may not be suitable for another purpose.
For another purpose. As our opinion is not modified.
So it is, and then if you go into what the directors themselves said, they were even more, categorical that this was not done in accordance with the IFRS standards. But I come back to the point. All the data is there. Anybody who's minded to read can read it. I come back to the point. There is the need to ensure that the deterioration ceases. The steps that need to be taken to ensure that the bank is back on its feet need to be taken now. The consistent denials and refusals will not make the problem go away.
So what's the way forward?
Again, I mentioned to you, we've put out a 9-part plan, which starts with the fact that you need to recapitalize the bank. You need to put in place a transparent, time-bound recapitalization strategy. You need to ensure that the bank's recapitalization is included in the fiscal risk analysis of this country so that the one who is paying for it is not surprised. Remember in 2017, we were surprised when we discovered that we had to pay for take-or-pay contracts that had not been factored into the fiscal analysis framework. And we had to all of a sudden try and find ways to generate money to pay for things that were not included in the fiscal risk analysis. We are guiding and advising that that same thing is not repeated in this instance. We are also making the point that the bank needs to develop a recurring policy solvency measure, one that is recurring and sustainable, one that doesn't have to rely on one-off sale of gold, like what you showed us, 9.5 billion, before you become policy solvent. Because like you said, they say, oh, it was 700 million, now it's 5.5 billion. But in the table you've showed us, that's 5.5 billion positive now, as against the 700 million the previous year. It includes a 9.5 billion from gold, which is a one-off item. You are selling airtime here at Multimedia. That's your core job. If you have to sell airtime, let me break it down. You have to sell airtime to make revenue, to pay the salaries of the cameramen here. And now you get to a point where after selling airtime, you are not making enough revenue, and you start selling your cameras to generate revenue to pay airtime. Does that sound to you like, in this regard, policy solvency? No. How many times can you sell your camera? Because after you sell it once, you won't have it again to sell. It's not part of your core mandate. And so we are saying that it is important for them to develop a recurring policy solvency measure. We've also mentioned that they need to strengthen the disclosure of quasi-fiscal operations. All of the things that the fiscal is supposed to pay for, which they have nicodemously shifted onto the Bank of Ghana, that the Bank of Ghana is now paying for, need to be properly disclosed and taken off. You know now, for example, that now they are saying that the losses from the gold purchase program, they are moving it from the Bank of Ghana's books and they are taking it to the fiscal authorities. Why? Because it's a quasi-fiscal expenditure. You remember that when the finance minister came to Parliament in April 2025, he told us that he was going to give that amount of money from the Treasury to the SOEs that were responsible for gold transactions. They didn't, and the central bank had to be front-loading. So they were quasi-fiscal expenses. It was in the end that they now tried to, a refund for them to pay. Those are quasi-fiscal expenses that must be clearly disclosed and paid for by the fiscal. If you keep pushing them to the, central bank, it will show up on their books at the end of the year.
The majority clearly disagrees with most of your claims that you've made. They
have always disagreed.
Yes. One of the main people who disagrees with you is Sami Gyamfi. Over the weekend, I saw some back and forth between you and him. He says you are running from a debate from him because he believes that your facts are inaccurate. Are you running away from a debate?
The finance minister is responsible to bring the accounts to Parliament. I am surprised that people are not worried about why the law, Section 58, that says the finance minister should bring the accounts to Parliament and lay the accounts with his comments after it's been gazetted, so that Parliament can interrogate the accounts and come up with, various positions on it. And it's not being complied with. Some people are not interested in it. What they chose to do was to rather politicize the matter and hand over the accounts to a political party to come and hold a press conference on the accounts. That is theater. Have you ever, since you started journalism, seen that done before? That is irresponsible theater. That the Bank of Ghana's accounts are prepared, they are ready. The law says that it should go to the finance minister to gazette it. In fact, it should be gazetted, sent to the finance minister, he should add his comments, come and lay before Parliament. It's not complied with, then it is turned into theater. You had NDC communicators showing up in Parliament to join a press conference. You don't have worries about that? People don't have worries about that? So we have insisted that the finance minister must comply with the law and bring the accounts to Parliament. And any further interrogation we need to do, it will take place there. For the other persons, we have said that motions have been filed to investigate some of the things that have gone on. You have reported here that the majority side has blocked those motions. People don't seem worried about it, that the majority side says they don't want an investigation into whether it's the losses on the gold purchase program or investigations into the unprecedented sale of 50% of the nation's gold reserves. People are not interested in that. I think that those are the primary places that attention must be paid, answers must be sought, and the substantive things can be done, not theater.
Kojo Ponkroma, thank you very much for coming into the studio this afternoon. He is the MP for Ofuase Ayirebi. He's also the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee and also the chairman of the policy committee of the new
policy coordinating committee.
Exactly, of the newly constituted committees of the opposition NPP. You're still watching The Pulse here on Joy News. We return from the break with more. Don't go anywhere.
Another week is here on the greatest of all time show. My name is Giovanni Clip, and tonight we're bringing you talent. Contestant number one, let's bring Baby Car. Let's bring. He did it for you.
Cut. Oh, there is a leakage.
Where's the plumber? For quality and durability, insist on Syntex pipes. If you want quality, this be where you belong. Strong, tough, and reliable. Your perfect match to your trusted Syntex pipe. Syntex pipe, it dey carry water, no wahala. Syntex pipe, it dey make water dey flow. Syntex, and you're strong, and you're tough.
Welcome to the Ghana Business Leaders Conclave, a rare time with His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei II. This exclusive forum brings together CEOs, board members, policymakers, and captains of industry for a high-level closed-door dialogue on negotiation, mediation, and ethical governance for business sustainability, alongside a rare opportunity to engage in a deeply insightful conversation with one of Africa's most influential and widely respected traditional rulers. Theme: Leading with Integrity, Navigating Mediation and Ethical Governance for Business Sustainability. In today's complex and high-stakes business environment, the ability to make sound ethical decisions under pressure is critical. Join us on Friday, 15th May 2026 at 4 p.m. at the Kofi Ohene-Frimpong Auditorium on the UPSA campus. For RSVP or enquiries, kindly call 024-431-1996 or 024-587-9187. Be part of this defining conversation where leadership meets legacy and the future of ethical governance is shaped. The Ghana Business Leaders Conclave, a rare time with Otumfuo Osei II.
Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Crafted from cocoa, milk, and sugar. Creamy, chocolatey, frothy goodness, rich taste, so satisfying.
Cadbury goodness, the treats you deserve every day.
Welcome back to the Pulse. Property owners along Accra's coast fear losing their investments to the sea as some begin spending heavily on erosion control structures to protect their properties. But with coastal erosion worsening in several communities, there are growing calls for a larger state-led sea defense system across vulnerable coastal areas. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in our series When the Sea Comes Home.
Along parts of Ghana's coastline, the battle against the sea is no longer a future threat. As waves move closer to homes and businesses, property owners are spending heavily on private sea defense measures, fearing they could eventually lose everything to the sea. At Kolegono in Accra, concrete barriers now stand between hotels and the sea, while sandbags support weakened foundations where erosion has gradually eaten away the land beneath. A hotelier who spoke on condition of anonymity says the current waves have become increasingly dangerous.
The current waves, I think the global warming is having a telling on the sea. It is very dangerous. Very, the sea is very powerful. The sea, it was a month ago. It just rushed upstream and nearly took some people away.
Further along the coast at the Artists Alliance Gallery, management has spent heavily on protective measures to keep the sea from moving further inland. Huge rocks now line sections of the shore, forming a barrier between the waves and the buildings behind them. Oscar Neil Odoy Glover is a manager at the Artists Alliance Gallery.
16 years ago, before the building was built, my old man saw it wise that we needed sea defense. In fact, some of us saw it as a waste of fund because just behind you, you could see how we've packed the marble stones, the very big one, to hold the sea waves. Just behind me also, there is other ones. Beneath us also, there is a lot of marble stones, which we have built on it. Yes. These marble stones are able to hold the waves so that at least we can protect the sea from, at the long last, taking all the building into the sea.
But even with the protective measures, the sea continues to creep closer. For the past 16 years, the shoreline around the gallery has changed dramatically.
The distance now from the sea to the streets, formerly it was double that distance. So with that, you can tell how close the sea is for the past 60 years. Now, with us here, the sea is doing a lot of damage.
One structure at the gallery site has already deteriorated so badly that management says it may eventually have to be demolished.
There's a lot of salt in the wind. The salt eats into the wall. So gradually, you see that the blocks are getting into powder form and then they are falling off. And so definitely, there's nothing you can do about the building but than to demolish the whole thing.
Business owners say they are spending thousands of cedis protecting properties that remain vulnerable every day.
The cause and effect is very dangerous. We put some edges. Some people too have put rocks. This is actually helping, to push the sea backwards.
Residents and business owners blame illegal sand winning for worsening the erosion. Even as some people try to protect the shoreline, others continue removing sand from the beach.
Human activities is also helping the sea to come closer to us, especially the winding of the sand. People come collect sand, collect stones from the shore. All these things enable the sea to move closer to us.
It's creating some valley. And so it's pushing the sea towards the coast, which is very dangerous. So education must go on and educate the perpetrators of this heinous crime.
As private businesses struggle to defend themselves, there are growing calls for a larger state-led sea defense systems across vulnerable coastal communities.
There are areas that they need, the government needs to come and help as far as the sea defense is concerned. If you can remember, we've done sea defense as far as from the Volta. There's a need for the government to come into our aid so that at least those who can protect themselves from the sea wave, the government can do something about it to help us, not only us, but to help the country as a whole.
The walls are getting higher. More rocks are being piled along the shore, but with every crashing wave, the sea keeps moving closer, threatening homes, businesses, an entire stretch of Ghana's coastline. Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, Accra.
In a major push to fight climate change and boost the wallets of local farmers, the government has begun distributing over 1 million economic tree seedlings across Bono East and Savannah regions. The initiative aims to turn ordinary farms into long-term profitable assets. My colleague Anas Sabit has more.
In the Bono East and Savannah regions, the earth is getting a new treasure, not gold, not oil, with 1.2 million economic tree seedlings. Agric Minister Eric Opoku led the ceremony in Nkranza, handing out cashew, mango, and the highly nutritious moringa to farmers.
Government has decided to support the development of the tree crop industry. And so we are encouraging Ghanaian farmers to go into tree crop farming. What we did this afternoon is just to distribute seedlings to our farmers. We brought cashew seedlings, mango seedlings, and moringa seedlings. We have 3 million of the seedlings to be distributed to over 10,000 farmers.
Traditionally, a Ghanaian farmer worries about one thing, the harvest at the end of the season. But this initiative changes the math completely. These trees will keep producing for decades, but the real headline here, for the first time, farmers will also get paid for the carbon those trees breathe in.
We are doing this for a purpose. The first one is to increase incomes. Farmers will sell their harvest and rake in revenue. Then apart from that, after 3 years of planting, we are going to pay for the carbon credit. And that will be determined, how much we pay will be determined by a committee that we are going to set up. We are going through climate turbulence. You know the impact of climate change and how it has seriously affected food production. The entire environment. To restore the greenery, the verdure that will produce that conducive atmosphere for habitation. We have decided to encourage farmers to go into the planting of economic trees.
Deputy Country Director for the World Food Programme, Anita Narahari, revealed that this is phase 2 of the CLTF Agroforestry Carbon Credit Programme. Over 7,000 more farmers are set to benefit, with over 3 million seedlings planted in total. But crucially, these farmers will earn credits for every ton of carbon their trees store.
With the commencement of this second phase, over 7,000 additional farmers will receive climate resilience tree crop seedlings, bringing a total number of beneficiary farmers reached under this program to approximately 10,000 farmers till date. In total, more than 3 million mango, cashew, and moringa seedlings are being distributed under this initiative across the target regions. This entirety is a $7 million USD project, but this is just a beginning.
The Bono East Regional Minister Francis Usu-Antwi, on his part, gave a firm commitment that the region will not fail, but also issued a direct warning to project managers to release funds to farmers on time.
I urge all the beneficiaries of the Agroforestry for Carbon Credit project to adhere to the principles and practices governing this project. I also urge the project managers to always release funds and other resources to beneficiaries to carry out their activities on time.
The minister calls it a key strategy for transforming agriculture, but we call it a lifeline.
Star project we are abay. Yansu yebehwe start the project no ebegina na ebetumpon.
Yebesre no say mo bia so ehia de fa ho no so mo de be mayen. And betima ma yeso yetima yedwuma de no kama.
With climate change threatening traditional crops, these trees are a hedge against the future. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Nkranza.
The Ghana Gold Board is set to fund the restoration of 50 hectares of the degraded Tano Nimire Forest Reserve following Joy News' documentary on the impact of Galamsey on the forest. Erastus Asaridonko's recent documentary, Forest Under Siege, Tano Nimire Forest Reserve, documents the invasion of the forest since 2022, the culprits and the impact on timber concessions there. Gold Board Chief Executive Sami Gyamfi hints that the reclamation and reforestation of the Tano Nimire Forest Reserve is to be conducted jointly by Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces and the Forestry Commission. The following report has more.
The Tano Nimire Forest Reserve has been under the spotlight of Joy News reports since 2022. The latest Hotline documentary, Forest Under Siege, focused on the invasion of this resource by illegal miners and its impact on timber concessions.
You could describe the relationship between the Tano Nimire Forest Reserve, Samatex, Samraboy as symbiotic. They depend on each other. But this bond between Samatex, Tano Nimire, and Samraboy was soon to face a survival test occasioned by a new wave of illegal invasions of forests for gold.
They managed to evacuate, more or less flush out the first group that came. That was around August 2022. Before this group could take out their machinery from the forest reserve, Akonta Mining quickly took over the place, this time around with heavy armed personnel, claiming that they have a mining lease inside the Tano Nimire Forest Reserves.
A vast portion of the forest was devastated, with a once thriving ecosystem reduced to gaping, uncovered pits.
Following these reports, CEO of Gold Board, Samuel Gyamfi, has announced a new phase of restoring degraded forest reserves, beginning with 50 hectares.
We were touched by the sad story of the devastation of the Tano Nimire Forest Reserve. And that was as a result of the excellent documentary that you and your colleagues at Joy News did on the activities of illegal mining in that particular forest reserve that has completely destroyed over 200 hectares of that, reserve. And so I'm happy to inform you that we have received approval from the board, of the Ghana Gold Board, and our supervising ministry to undertake reclamation works in the disturbed areas. We're starting with phase 1, which covers 50 hectares of the devastated forest reserve. And we are doing this under the supervision of the Forestry Commission and by extension the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, under whom these forest reserves are for. We've been working on this in the last few months. I'm happy to tell you that we are almost at the end of that process and about to execute an agreement for the reclamation of at least 50 hectares of disturbed areas of the Tano Nimire Forest Reserve.
Mr. Gyamfi speaks of plans to reclaim more degraded forests and restore polluted rivers.
With regards to reclamation, a lot of calls have been made on us, rightly so, because the law has given us that mandate. We've said yes to the call, and we are now kicking start what will be the first of many reclamation works relative to devastated forest reserves and polluted water bodies in the country.
Management of the Adidome Senior High School in the Central Ton District of the Volta region is concerned about the rising cases of candida infections among female students. According to the headmaster, Vincent Atiko, the infection rates are linked to the use of dilapidated pit latrine due to the lack of proper sanitation facilities. He has therefore appealed to government and charitable organizations to build a modern sanitary facility to reduce infections among the female students.
The Dome Senior High School in the Central Town District has experienced increase in student numbers over the years. However, this growth has not been matched by infrastructure development, and the school struggles to accommodate both staff and students. The school lacks adequate classrooms, staff and student accommodation, and other essential academic resources to support effective teaching and learning. Dr. Vincent Jidula Kwesi Atiku is the headmaster of the school.
We have a lot of challenges, as I tried to mention. Infrastructure-wise, we need additional classroom blocks. We need additional dormitories for boys and girls. We need student beds, particularly the steel metal beds, bank beds. And so we need metal beds very badly. Most of our students are lying on the floor. They sleep on the floor, really. In the evening when you come, you realize that they lay their mattresses on the floor and they sleep. And they do this at the mercy of mosquitoes. You imagine. If the beds were there, they put out their nets and sleep in comfort.
One of the most pressing issues at the school is the absence of suitable sanitary facilities for students, particularly girls. The only pit latrine available has developed deep cracks and is also close to collapse. Furthermore, Dr. Vincent Jidula Kwesi Atiku commented that female students are suffering infections due to the continued use of the unhygienic facility.
Not so. And critical to mention, I said the challenges are many, but critical to mention has to do with toilet facility for our students. Our girls in particular have been getting a lot of candidiasis from the old age KVIP that we have, which came with the school. The school is 40 years old, and this KVIP is also aged. And it's at the verge of collapse. And so we'll be very, very happy if stakeholders can come to our aid to quickly put up such a facility for us, particularly the girls who form 2/3 of the student population. They are mostly at the mercy of infections.
The students and staff of Ajidome Senior High School are eagerly awaiting a modern toilet facility to end their ongoing struggles. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Ajidome.
Now, still on health, a hantavirus outbreak that began on a cruise ship in the South Atlantic is drawing attention in Germany, with several German nationals connected to the MV Honduras known or being flown back for medical monitoring and the special precautions. For more on this, let's cross over to Thomas Parrow. He's a correspondent with our partners DW in Berlin. Thomas, what do we know about these German nationals?
This story is prominent here in Germany and here in Europe as well. There's no doubt about that, because the ship actually had around 150 passengers from over 20 nationalities, but 70 of those passengers were actually European, from different countries: the UK, Spain, France, the Netherlands, Spain. And specifically when it comes to Germany, there were 8 passengers from Germany. One of those passengers was actually among the 3 deceased, and the remaining have been flown back to Germany. Some were actually in a hospital in Frankfurt being checked, but then the others are now back in their respective cities, in their respective regions. This has to do with the fact that they have to isolate specifically in their respective cities, and they are going to be monitored specifically by local health authorities there on a daily basis, for example, checking their temperature. There is a lot of interest in this story here in Germany about also these 8 Germans, but it is definitely not something that is only of interest here in Germany, but I would say also in other European countries as well, as the other European passengers are also repatriated back to their countries of origin.
And Thomas, how are German authorities assessing the risk to the general public?
Is being assessed as low, by the way, not only by Germany's health authorities, also from European health authorities in particular. Experts have stressed time and time again that it's important not to compare the hantavirus to, for example, the COVID, and not to expect a pandemic as we had with COVID. They've been stressing that there are clear differences in the way the virus spreads, in the way the virus also develops. So that is something very important from the health perspective. However, there is one important element that is a matter of concern for health authorities, and that's the fact that this specific variant of the hantavirus is being described as having a high mortality rate, so around 40 to 50%. And that's why for those who are infected, for those who have symptoms, this hantavirus is particularly dangerous. But authorities have been stressing that for the general public, the risk remains very low.
And how are other European countries reacting?
As I stressed, this is something that not only affects Germany. There were passengers from all sorts of different European countries, the UK in particular, Spain, the Netherlands, France, Germany, as I already stressed. And that's why this is not only something that is being monitored very closely by German health authorities, by the German Public Health Institute, but also from a European perspective as well. On the one hand, to understand how these different passengers are faring, in particular if they are coping well with their isolation, if they need any other medical treatments and so on, but also in particular then if the situation does become more challenging, to then coordinate public responses. So in essence, I would say, based on the number of passengers, based on the way these passengers are being transferred back to their countries of origin, this is certainly a challenge for European countries, and one that they're trying to discuss and monitor also nationally, but also from a European perspective as well.
Thomas Sparrow with our partners DW in Berlin. Thank you, Thomas. And that's it for The Pulse this evening. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Kenneth Gyasi. Have a good evening.
Every morning before the rush, before the arguments, before the headlines begin to chase us,
there's a moment to pause, to listen, to understand what truly matters. This is where the day begins.
Mr. Ken Oforiatta, a man who has run away from his own people he once served. We believe in the spirit of accountability. It is important for him to come and answer charges preferred against him by the state.
On the AM show, the news is not just read, it is examined. The stories shaping your life, explained with clarity, handled with care. We ask the questions without fear.
If your constituency cannot grow enough tomato for Ghanaians, then there's something wrong with your constituency.
My name is Emefa Akosua-Addo.
And I am Samuel Kojo Brace.
Two voices, one purpose, holding the powerful to account, putting your interests first in every conversation.
No noise, no spin, just facts, context, and the courage to ask the right questions.
Start your day informed, start your day empowered. The AM show on Joy News is definitely worth waking up for.
Joy News, independent,
fearless, credible.